Good morning, and welcome to what will be Chapter 6. We closed with Roman 11, the wolf is coming, the Astraeus of the sun cannot see it, for one by one the suns go out. So they fled the bar. Let's see what happens. Chapter 6. Lucky's mother grabbed his hand and dragged him through the door. He strapped his kit bag to his back as they sprinted away from the bar. Captain Knox led the way, running swiftly and gracefully on his hooves. Frolix loped along beside Lucky and his mother. Bixer Quicksilver brought up the rear, guarding them from attack. Lucky looked back at her. She was no older than him, yet she moved like a warrior, with deadly purpose in every step. What she felt, said Bixer as they ran, was the flash from the other side of the room. Those groundlings got it in the face. They're not hurt, but they won't be leaving the bar for a while. She spoke without gloating or glee, just a reassurance of someone who is expert at their job. Lucky's mother smiled. That girl, she said, she's good. Lucky glanced back again, and his mouth went dry, because it looked like there was something leaving the bar. Or rather, something. A shadow, the shadow he'd seen on the wall. It was moving on its own, and now it was coming after them. His mother turned and saw it too. Come on, she urged. They accelerated away from the refugee camp, running out beyond the edge of the spaceport. Here, far from all the other ships, they came to a derelict runway. Its flight tower was abandoned, its surface strewn with weeds. It was the worst patch of ground imaginable. That's where they let us land, said Frolix, and over there, that's our ship. There was a very surprising structure at the end of the runway. It was the size of a starship, but it was shaped like a silver crescent moon, with wires crisscrossing between the points. More like some strange sculpture than any ship Lucky had seen before. It looked battered, burned and badly beaten up. It certainly didn't look like it could fly. The Sunfire, breathed Frolix. Didn't I say she was the best ship in the galaxy? A hatch opened up on the side of the ship. A warm light shone out from within. Good enough, said Lucky's mother, let's go. But something inside made her hesitate. She turned around, and there was the shadow. Coming closer and closer. As Lucky watched, it seemed to grow even darker, thicker. It was taking shape, becoming solid, becoming a guard, a shadow guard. Are they coming to protect us? Gulped Lucky, throat constricting with fear. His mother shook her head. Her long red hair flowed through behind her in the night. The aliens turned and saw the approaching shadow. Bixer's needles went pale, but she clenched her fists and touched her cannon. Bixer, no, commanded Captain Knox. It's us they're after, Lucky's mother told the aliens. You go to your ship, get ready for takeoff. We'll join you in a minute. The aliens glanced at each other and then ran towards their starship. Lucky and his mother stayed on the runway. In a heartbeat, the shadow guard caught up with them. He stood there silently, watching them, darker than the darkness. Even this close, it was hard to see him clearly, because he was wearing some kind of stealth armour that sucked up the light, leaving only shadows. Lucky couldn't see his eyes, his mouth, or any of his features, almost as if he didn't have a face at all. But there was a coldness coming from him that was unmistakable. Then the shadow guard spoke, in a voice Lucky felt in his bones as much as he heard with his ears. Diana Ashbourne, he said, we know who you really are. We know your real name, and we know that what you've done. Come with us, and by the authority of the President Thorntree's government, no one will be hurt. And shadow guards are famous for telling the truth, aren't they? Replied Lucky's mother. Leave us alone. That boy beside you, said the shadow. The boy with the astrolabe. Is that your son? His son? I won't tell you anything, she said. Then we'll rip his brain scan and yours. We'll find out everything we want to know. Lucky backed away, legs like jelly. His whole body was shaking, but his mother squared up to the shadow guard, fearless. You'll never even touch the boy, she said, in her iciest voice. You know what I'm capable of. Don't make me do that. There's only one of you, and... That soft hissing sound again, directly above them, and Lucky looked up. And there it was, the V-shaped shadow in the sky, even bigger than before, so big now it filled his entire field of vision. Then blinding lights flared up on the tips of the V, like floodlights coming on, so bright that Lucky's nose began to bleed, and now at last he knew that he was looking at a shadow ship. A vast black starship hovering in the air above them, blocking his view of the sky. There was no crack up there. This was an illusion caused by the ship's stealth armour, because these were the ships of the shadow guards, attack craft, sleek and deadly, their wings meeting in a sharp V at the front. The shadow ship descended to the ground, hissing softly as it displaced the air around it. Dust and weeds swirled in the wind. Lucky's hair blew across his eyes. "Okay," said his mother under her breath. "Come on, Lucky, let's go." But he couldn't move. He just stood there, frozen in the blinding nosebleed glare. Shadows began to stream out of the black ship, shadows darker than the darkness, blotting out the world. Shadow guards. He couldn't see their faces because they were hidden behind stealth armor, but they were carrying shoulder cannon, ground blasters, weapons he couldn't even name, and they were coming to get him. Lucky's mother grabbed his hand and dragged him down the runway towards the alien ship. There was a low rumble at the edge of his hearing. He thought it might be the sound of weapons powering up, preparing to fire. A massive blast. A crater opened in the ground just behind him. The force of it flung him into the air, and for a moment he felt like he was flying. "Ah!" he screamed as he smashed into the ground, knees first. Excruciating pain ripped through his kneecaps. He tried to get up, but couldn't. He flailed as flames scorched the air around him and heat crackled his hair. Behind him, that low rumble powered up again. "Hold on to me," said his mother. She scooped him up in her arms and carried him to the abandoned flight tower. She kicked open the door and went through. Inside, everything was shrouded in dust like a tomb. She put Lucky down under a flight controller terminal beneath rows of old star maps, and they sheltered there together. Gasping for breath, his knees throbbed with pain. They were grazed and bleeding. Mother took a quick look at them, frowned and unshouldered a bag, but already the shadow guards were firing at the tower. A window exploded, the door flew off its hinges. Cracks appeared in the old star maps, and then they shattered one by one as flames engulfed the walls around them. "Why are they shooting at us?" cried Lucky, cowering under the terminal. "Is it my fault?" "No, my love, of course not," said his mother, over a shockwave wave that blasted his eardrums. "Now can you be very brave and hold on a minute before I treat your knees?" He nodded. She took off her jacket, rolled up the sleeves of her white shirt, and reached into her bag. Inside it, under the medkit, Lucky glimpsed a hand cannon, some ammunition clips, and a couple of fist-sized metal objects that he thought might be grenades. But he couldn't be sure, because he'd never ever seen such things before. "I hoped it wouldn't come to this," she said as she loaded the cannon, fingers moving without hesitation. "But if that's how it has to be." She took up the position by the door, cocked the trigger, and blasted away at the shadow guards as they tried to rush the tower. Her first shot stopped one of them. Her second dropped another. Then 3 shadow guards were down. She was brilliant. Perfect precision, aim, fire, reload. She unleashed another round. Every shot hit its mark. "Why did you learn to shoot like that?" whispered Lucky, stunned. "Excuse me." She raised her eyebrow. "Beginner's luck," she replied, the ghost of a smile in her eyes. But she didn't move like a beginner. She'd gone into another gear, reloading her cannon again like it was the most normal thing in the world. "I wish I could help her," thought Lucky. "I wish I could blow the shadow guards to heck." Blam! The cannon clattered to the ground. She was hit. Her hand was bleeding. With her other hand, she flung one of the grenades back at the shadow guards. There was a soft whining sound, and then a huge explosion. And then there was a deafening silence in Lucky's ears. End of part 1.